We're going to talk about trust. Last time we talked about judgment. If you didn't get a chance to see that, just go ahead and look on my wall, and it should be posted. And so the next thing we're going to talk about is abandonment. And I was going to talk about abandonment and trust together because they kind of go together. But there's so much to talk about when we're talking about trust. What is it? Where the issue starts? Why it is important to heal, and then how do you heal it if you have the issue of trust as being one of your issues that you decided you're going to play out in this lifetime. We're going over the series and learning how to receive love in the way that you've always wanted to. And in order to do that, we have to kind of look at some of the issues that pop up for us in our life experience. It's in no particular order, but judgment, trust, abandonment, abuse, control, responsibility, and love. The next issue I will cover after this, like I said before, is abandonment. Last time I forgot to give you the oils that would work on a cellular level if you're going through these issues. And so I'm going to go ahead and give you those tonight. And I'll tell you how I use them. I do use them as I work through some of the issues. And we'll talk about why I use them and how I use them. Please like and comment, because if you do, then I will put you in a raffle for a free oil from me. And tonight, what I'm going to do is do the forgive oil. This is an oil that everybody should have, especially when you're processing through emotions and you're just going through life. This is a wonderful, wonderful, probably one of my all-time favorite oils besides the On Guard that we'll talk about in a second. This is awesome. Super easy to use because it's in a roll-on, and so it kind of looks like that. Pretty easy. And you can use it any way you want to. You can roll it on your skin anywhere you'd like. You can roll it on your hand and smell it. I mean, the only thing you can't do is put it on your tongue. Just kidding. Because some oils you can put in your mouth. For instance, I can use frankincense, which is the oil of truth. Will keep me in the truthful space. And I just put it under my tongue. No big deal. It's kind of like a fine wine, though, so you got to get used to it. Okay, so... those people who engage on this live, you will be into a raffle to win Forgive oil. So the oils that you would want to use for judgment, if you're working on the issue of judgment, the oil that you would want to use is On Guard. On Guard, let's talk about why that's really important. It's awesome that it came up for the oil that you would use for judgment. And how I would use it is if I knew that I was going to be in the presence of somebody who was going to judge me, I would use On Guard oil over my heart to protect my heart. That's how I do that. You can dilute it down because it has a little bit of cinnamon in it, but I generally don't. My skin doesn't generally have a problem with oils, but if you are very sensitive, you want to probably dilute that one. Let me go ahead and read to you what this oil does for you. It's the oil of protection. It's actually a blend of oils. It's why it's called On Guard. So some oils are single oils, like peppermint is just peppermint. There's nothing added to it, just peppermint. It's not adulterated or any kind of crazy stuff like that. That's why we use doTERRA. This one has blend of oils in it, so it has many oils in it. Let me see if, I think it's like cinnamon and wild orange. It has several oils in it. So it's called a blend, and then they put a title on that or a name to it, which is called On Guard. And it's probably one of doTERRA's most popular oils. And that's because everybody uses it whenever they're not feeling so great, right? But this is one way you can use it that not a lot of people know how to use it. So I'm going to read to you what it does. So oils work on a cellular level. I could teach about this all day long, but just know that basically you have cells in your body, and they accept the oils pretty well. And so they can make cellular changes in a very positive way into your cellular structure. And there's so many different other reasons how they work. And if you just want to believe that it's just placebo, well, placebos do work too. You can either summon a miracle and believe that something works, or you can block it and block the miracle by just believing that it doesn't work. It's totally up to you. All it is how you want to look at it. Okay, let me read it. This combination of oils is generally used to shield individuals from harmful threats. This blend's protective properties, however, extend beyond the physical level by aiding in individuals in warding off energetic parasites, domineering personalities, and other negative influences. On Guard strengthens one's immune system, which governs the ability to defend against attacks from both physical and negative energies. On Guard is incredibly helpful for strengthening the inner self, along with inner resolve to stand up for oneself and live in integrity. This blend is especially indicated for personalities who have weakened boundaries due to some kind of perpetual violation to their personal space. Whew, that was a lot. On guard gives individuals strength to say no and resolve to maintain clear boundaries. It cuts away unhealthy connections such as codependency, parasitic relationships, or emotional viruses found in negative group thought. On guard greatly assists individuals in learning to stand up for themselves and live in integrity with their true self. Some great things that it can do is help you with healthy boundaries, which is great for judgment, but it's also good for trust as well. So I guess you could use that for trust if you're working with that issue. It'll help you feel protected, capable, give you integrity, independence, reinforcement, and strengthened. Okay, so those are the things that it can help you with. So that's what is available this month, but let me talk about some other oils that you can use for judgment. Forgive is one of them. Forgive is one of the oils that you can use for judgment as well. And bergamot or bergamot, however you want to say it, oil is also another great one you can use for judgment. And that oil is an oil for self-acceptance. So if you accept yourself, you can give a crap what anybody thinks about you. All right, so the oils that you could use for trust, and we're talking about trust tonight, is frankincense, because frankincense is the oil of truth. Geranium, because that's the oil of love and trust. Cypress, that's the oil of feeling like you have control over a situation. That's a really interesting one to help with children who are very attached to you, to help them feel like they have control in life. It's one of the ones that I use to help my son kind of have the emotional ability to kind of do his own thing. I think it was around the age of 3 or 4 when I was trying to help him gain that independence. And then the other one is arbor vitae, which is the oil of grace, and giving yourself grace or whatever. One thing I also want to say is, as you move through these emotions, as you recognize the emotions that are coming up for you. So we talked about in one of the videos, how do you find out if trust is even an issue for you, or abandonment, or any of these things? They will be presented to you in your life. Like, you will see these experiences coming up all the time. So if you don't know, then you need to get a level of awareness to where you start to recognize that there are things that come up for you and things that God wants you to look at. Okay. So as you look at these situations, and as God gives you experiences for you to grow and learn through, then the emotions will come up for you. What I'm going to tell you to do is, don't hold on to the emotions. Don't try to push them down. Don't attach to them and put a story to it. What I want you to do is just move through it. So if for some reason tears come up, you don't have to cry for 3 hours about it. If tears come up, you cry for about 90 seconds. Let it be what it is. Let it get as big as it wants, and let it pass through your system. That's what you're doing. That's how you heal. It is not healthy to take the emotion and drown it out with alcohol, or try to push it away or something like that, because that feels comfortable for you to do. It is not healthy for you to dive into the emotion and just let it all encompass you. Like, that's not a healthy thing to do. You just say, this feels like this for me. Make it really big. Feel it, and then it'll just pass away. It literally will take like 90 seconds if you don't try to make it more than what it is. It is just you seeing it for what it is and being objective about it, feeling the emotion, and then moving through it and letting it go. Okay? So then what we're going to talk about today is trust. Here we go. So what is trust? Let's start with that, because if we don't know what it is, then we don't know what to do with it, right? Okay, so the first thing is, and don't forget to comment and like, that way we can put you in for the raffle for Forgive oil. Okay? All right, here we go. Trust. Trust is the foundation for relationships. It is the belief that someone is going to be responsible, reliable, consistent, and truthful in your partnership or in your relationship. It's knowing that you can depend on someone else to meet your needs. Once trust has been broken, it takes time to repair, but it can be repaired. A lot of people think that once trust is broken, then it cannot be repaired, but that is not true. I've seen lots of relationships mend this thing that happens. Someone breaking trust is just the other person feeling like they're not getting their needs met. And once you can just understand what those needs are, and you can work together as a team, you can definitely repair trust. Trust is not a hard thing to repair. but it does take both people working together. So if someone breaks your trust, it is not a death sentence. If both parties are willing to work on it together, then it can be restored. I have known many couples, and it's not just marriages, but couples who've been together for a while, or just people who are together. And I'm not saying that it's common, but I have known where there are people who have had infidelity. And because both people want to work on the causation of what caused the infidelity, because unless you're working with a narcissistic person who does those things to hurt you, they don't care about you, that's not a common thing. Most time with infidelity, there was a causation in the relationship. I'm not saying that the person who didn't do the infidelity caused the problem. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that infidelity is a symptom. It's not actually the cause. Infidelity is not the cause. It's actually a symptom of things that are not working well in the relationship, and the person looks outside in order to get those needs met, instead of working with the partner that they have right then and there to get their needs in that way. But you can heal that broken trust. And I know a lot of people who've healed that part of their relationship, so it does work. It does take work, though, for the person who broke the trust to gain that back, to gain everything that was lost. And during the process, it may feel like it's never going to be restored to the way that it originally was. And it's possible that it may not get there. However, I can give you encouragement to say that it will grow your relationship in such a way that it'll be bigger and better if you just stay the course and don't give up. Sometimes it means that the person who felt violated or felt like they had got their trust broken may have higher demands in order to try to fix things. But for the person who is meeting those demands, you need to understand that you need to do whatever that person, if you really love that person and you want that person back, in order to gain their trust, you need to do whatever you can to meet their need of trust. And some of it might seem kind of crazy, like I need to see your emails, I need to see your phone messages, or something like that. But the person who's feeling violated needs to have control again. That's why they need to see the emails and the phone messages and all of those things. And it does feel like, a violation of privacy. I get that. But the trust was broken, so you have to kind of go to extremes in order to mend that trust again. Like, how much do you really want this relationship? And it may be that you have to give some of your privacy up in order to fix that. And I'm not talking about abusive types of control. We're not talking about that at all. We're talking about a relationship that has safety in it already, and we're trying to build that and make it more. Okay. So once the person who felt violated can see that the person who broke the trust, let's put it that way, once they see that you're not getting over on them, you know what I mean? Like you're not trying to hurt them, and they see that it's more of a safe place, then they will start to open up again. They will start to let go of that iron fist. It'll get relaxed more. And then you'll see that the trust is starting to build, but it can take years. And please don't think that it'll take a couple days or a couple weeks. It depends on how much damage the person had in childhood for trust to see how long it might take for that trust to come back. And I'm going to talk to the other person who felt violated in just a second, and we'll help them calm down a little bit. No relationship is perfect. People have issues in trust in all relationships. It manifests differently for different people. It's just how you navigate through that will save the relationship or not. Okay, so let's talk to the person who felt like their trust has been betrayed. And I want to encourage you a little bit. And I want you need to first understand where the betrayal first started, not the betrayal in the relationship that you're in right now, because generally that's not where it first manifested. So you have to go back into your childhood and see where was the betrayal first. Where was the trust broken first? And we'll talk about it a little bit tonight so that you'll get a little bit understanding of where that may have started for you. Because it's probably not in this relationship that you're in right now. That relationship is just bringing up an old injury, and it's like putting salt on a wound. Therefore, to be honest, it's really not that person who violated you right now. It's not only their responsibility to gain your trust back. It's yours to work on the original injury as well. Because we'll talk about Remember, it's a symptom. It's not actually the cause of the problem in the relationship. It's actually a symptom of multiple things before the infidelity starts. So you have to kind of look back and say, I'm not saying that it's the injured person's fault at all. So please don't ever take that. I'm telling you that there's another injury first that was bigger. It's kind of like, if you have it's like if you have a wound and it heals up just a little bit, but then it, like, for some reason it won't fully heal. And then somebody comes along and they put their finger in that wound, and it breaks open. So we have to heal the old injury first, and then we can really heal the relationship. Actually, once you heal that old relationship or old injury, you'll start to see that the new relationship will kind of heal itself. Naturally and very easily. So I just want you to, and I want you to kind of look at the person who may have done the thing to betray you in the relationship that you're in right now as a symptom of something that we need to heal, something even bigger that we need to heal first. Heal that and then come on in and kind of heal the relationship that you're in right now. There's something else that I would like to help the person who is trying to have control over the trust by looking at someone's emails or phone, or I got to know everything that's going on. You can't control someone else's free will. You just cannot do it. And if you try to do that, you're going to dig yourself a huge hole. You're going to make your life miserable trying to control someone else. It just doesn't work that way. So what I would like you to consider is that you looking at the other person's personal information isn't really giving you the power that you're looking for. It's giving you heartache, and it's making you crazy, right? Because you have to do this like detailed detective crazy work. It's crazy work, right? Let's not do that. It doesn't make you feel good inside to be that controlling, and you don't even really want to do it. That's the crazy thing. But you feel like you have to, because if you don't do it, then, you're not going to see something coming, and then you're going to be like blindsided, and the rug's going to be taken out from under your feet. I get it. I know how you feel, and I know how you want to protect yourself, and I know it's all part of your armor. I get it. But let's look at it like this for a minute. Why don't we take a step back and realize that you're an adult? You're not a child living in a hostile situation. You may feel that way. It may feel like it's super dangerous because this horrible thing happened. But I just want you to take a step back and say to yourself, I'm a mature adult. And if someone betrays me, I get to make the decision on what I'm going to do next. You're not trapped. You can say, I lived some stuff that was really hard in life, and I have wisdom from that. And I can now utilize that wisdom to help me get through this. So it's being able to start to gain the trust within yourself. It's very, very important. Probably more important than trying to trust someone else. Trying to put that trust outside of you is like, if people are going to betray you and mess with your trust, that's on them. And you choose whether or not you want to have that relationship anymore. You choose if you want to try to make that work or not. And if you don't want to, then you have a choice. You can go live your life in a different way. And once you tell, like, God and the universe that say for instance, somebody does betray you and decide that you were going to walk away. What you're telling God is that I do not want to be treated that way with betrayal. So bring me someone else. That's what you're telling God. And if you're meant to be with that person will change in order to be in your experience, in order for you to have the relationship that you so desire. But you have to say no first before you can gain what you really want. Because if you keep going back to betrayal, to the person who's like, oh, I'm sorry, and you keep going back to that and nothing changes, that energy is just staying alive. But once you say, nope, not going to do that, that energy dies with that person unless they change, then maybe that person will end up coming back to you. And if not, then you will get someone who won't do that thing because you've already told God, that is not who I'm going to be. That is not what this life experience is going to be for me. Okay? So just remember that you don't have to live in the energy of the child who had no control over their life, who is at the mercy of other people around them. You are at the mercy of yourself, which is a beautiful thing because you can at least control that. If bad things happen in your life, you always have a choice. The feeling that you have when you attach to the betrayal is a feeling of being trapped and that you have no power. Once you see that you do have power and the entrapment is all in your mind, then you won't look at their emails or the phone anymore. You won't need to. You can just take a deep breath and say, whatever happens, happens. I know I will live through it. No one has control over my life to make me feel a certain way but me. I have all the power of my emotions. And if this were to happen to me, I know there's something better or someone better for me on the horizon. It just gives me an opportunity to heal, take my power back, because everything is always working out the best way possible for me. Because you know who's on your side? God is on your side. So as long as in your mind you know that everything's happening the best way it needs to for you, it will. It's all in your mind. If someone consistently breaks your trust and apologizes for their actions and never changes, then that person does not deserve your trust. It's time for you to move on. Because trust is a privilege, not a right. This may be very eye-opening for children who grew up in a distrustful household because they were either, because this is what happens for a child who grows up in a distrustful household. They either, one, give their trust out to everybody, like, I have no boundaries. I just trust everybody and I get hurt all the time. Or there's somebody so closed off that they don't trust anyone, not even themselves, right? In this imbalanced way, the lessons are very hard revolving around trust. The lessons that manifest are very difficult. So we need to work through and try to ask for different ways through our energy of, I want to learn trust, but I don't want to learn it in betrayal or infidelity or something like that, okay? Let's talk about how do we play out the issue of trust in life. This is very important. Hold on, let me drink something. Okay, so I already talked about infidelity. That's one way that we play the issue of trust in life. Trust actually begins at birth. So this is where the baby learns whether or not the world is safe. When a baby cries, are their cries comforted? Are their basic needs being met in a predictable way? Babies are learning at every single moment and every single second whether or not the world can be trusted. Some of your trust issues stem all the way back before birth, before you were even born, when you were in the womb. For instance, if both parents were getting divorced in any of the trimesters, especially if there were some issues of betrayal in the relationship and the mother was going through emotional experience at the time, the cellular communication in the womb between mama and baby is that the world is an unsafe place. So it wouldn't be a surprise that baby starts putting on their armor right before they even come out of the womb, right? So you may have had parents who were who are unemotionally available. That's really what I was going to say. You may have parents who were emotionally damaged and unstable and never knew what healthy love was themselves. So how could they give it to you if they have no idea what it is, right? So you may have even had neglectful parents who left you with people who violated your body. You may have had parents who had control issues and did the same to you. Or maybe you had parents, I wanted to move into this way and then I totally lost where I was. So they may have, because to be honest, like molestation is not new. It's been passed down generationally. I honestly want to say that there may have been even more molestation in older days because nobody ever talked about it. It was kind of like something that people knew kind of just happened in the home. And it's really sad because it was never talked about. It was never validated. It was never acknowledged. And it happens just as much to little boys as it does to little girls. And the taboo around what happens to little boys makes it harder for men to even heal. And so anyone who's had this type of issue, and I want to bring up how common it is, because it is, there's nothing wrong with you. You need to heal the issue of trust and put the blame back where the blame belongs. And we're going to talk about that in a minute as well. because this can very much skew a child's understanding of trust in the world. And this type of thing does not go away just because you don't think about it. Like, I'm just not going to think about that, so it's going to go away. It doesn't work like that. It's on a subconscious level. So anyone who has had this type of violation understands what I'm talking about. However, you do need to take your power back in your life, and you need to take your trust back because somebody took that away from you. And it does cause problems in your later relationships. You can't just say, oh, well, that happened a long time ago, I'm not going to worry about it. There were cellular changes that happened in your body. Your cellular structure understood that the world was unsafe. And so if you don't release the emotional trauma around it, then you're just going to keep manifesting those types of things. And whether it's that particular thing, or it could manifest in a different way, but it's going to be a trust issue for sure. Okay, so I'm not condemning the people around you for what happened to you, and I'm not telling you to condemn anybody. All I'm trying to do is bring awareness to the trust issues in your relationship so that you can deal with them, and you don't have to have problems revolving around trust with all of your relationships. So because some of us have had no idea where the trust issues even began. So if some of us didn't even know where they even started. And so that takes you kind of looking back at your life and seeing, like, where did the first violation start? Where did the first betrayal start? Because that awareness brings you comfort and knowledge so that you can understand yourself better and take the blame away from you, from how you internalized it. Hold on. Because children always blame themselves, believing that there's something wrong with them instead of there's something wrong in their environment. Because that's really scary for a child to believe that there's something wrong with the environment, because then it makes it really unsafe. Like, if they blame themselves, then they at least think that, well, I have control over that aspect, right? But the issue is that the pattern becomes created. The pattern with trust issues becomes created when the child is not successful in dealing with their issues by themselves. They don't have the prefrontal cortex. They don't have the background knowledge or the wisdom to do this. And a lot of times, children with trust issues have parents who are either neglectful or just emotionally unavailable, or just not someone that they could talk to, right? So this ends up creating extreme self-worth issues in children, and they end up distrusting themselves. A lot of the trust issues that we have with other people are really because we distrust ourselves. When someone has an issue of trust, they also have an issue with distrusting God. Ouch, my leg. And so I think I need to sit a different way. Hold on. So just remember that the people playing out these trust issues with you are just characters in the story. That's it. My goal is to take the blame away from you, the child who blamed themselves, and put it back where the blame belongs. It actually belongs on the violator, on the abuser, on the person who did those things to you, okay? Not you. There are other instances where trust issues play out beyond the parent's control. And I'll give you an example. When I was born, well, I'll just give you my whole born experience, because you can see why I would have an issue with trust, or why I didn't believe that the world was a safe place or a trustful place. So when I was born, my mom and dad were separating. So in the womb, my mom and dad were separating. There was infidelity, I think, that was going on at the time. Lots of emotional drama, lots of emotional stress. And so to me, the born baby thinks that the world is unsafe. Not only that, it was supposed to be a twin, and the twin died. So then you have that, where there's like a death right in the womb, and I still survived, but I was born a month early, and I was the size of a Barbie doll, and my lungs did not work properly. They weren't fully developed, so I was in an incubator for 2 months. So I was born in Utah. I was flown to Vegas before my mother was even able to hold me. It was basically that this child is going to die. They flew me right to Vegas, and I was in an incubator for 2 months. In this case, we don't know if I ever had a real connection with my mother because of that instance. So the nurses at the time may not have the same training that the nurses have today. And the training that the nurses have today, it's known because of lots of documentaries and all the studies that we've had, how important that mother child bond is. And if there is no mother-child bond, then generally the nurses will take care of that. But I'm not really sure when I was born, at the time I was born, that was even a thing, because I don't even know if they put babies on the mom's chest at that time. It was kind of like, here's your baby, formula, and put them down somewhere, right? Like there was no like real connection. Where now a lot of mothers nurse because they understand that there's chemicals that come out of your body, that the oxytocin, the love chemical, comes out of your body when you hold your child and when you nurse your child. So we don't know, like in my case, if that was even what was happening. So you can see how that wasn't really in the control of the parent at that time. It's like there was something wrong with the baby. The baby gets put in an incubator for months, and then there's no real bond or connection. And so that child is gonna. It depends on how many babies were in incubators and how many nurses were on the floor at the time, and those types of things. Like did the baby get their needs met when they cried? You know, did they get whatever they needed? And so it's probably where a lot of my trust issues began. And there's other instances, like I played out the trust thing my whole life. So I know a lot about trust. Okay. So, and there's also instances where we take parenting advice from the world that cause trust issues between you and your child. So it's not that you meant to do that. You thought you were doing a really good thing because there were these great scientific studies that showed that this is a wonderful thing to do. And then you go to do it and you realize like, oh my gosh, I think that I may have caused an issue of trust, a pattern in my child, right? And I'll give you an example. So when I was going to have children, it took me a while. I was 32 when I finally had children. And that was because I knew that, I had a fear that I wouldn't be that great of a mom because of my childhood. So I was afraid. I didn't want to recreate that. And so for the longest time, I wasn't going to have any children. So it was at 32 is when the doctor kind of gave me an ultimatum. And he said, I had MS at the time. I was in a wheelchair at the time, and I wasn't doing well. And he said, look, you're at childbearing age. You need to decide whether or not you're going to have a child. And I was like, look at me, like I can't even take care of myself. You think I'm going to have children? Right? I was like, oh my gosh. But I didn't want to deny my husband. So I was like, what do you want to do? Because if I become disabled forever, it's going to be your responsibility to take care of me and children. Are you up to it? Like if you don't want to, I'm cool saying whatever. We don't have to do it. And my husband was like, he had, a similar type of childhood. So he was kind of like, oh, we went back and forth. We finally decided that we were going to have kids. Right. So, so that was, so I guess I bring that up because I read so many parenting books, afraid that I was going to replicate or duplicate my upbringing. I was so afraid. I was so scared. I read every single parenting book that was available. And there was a point when I felt like some of the books that I read made me feel like I was too attached to my children. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm creating codependency. I'm overfunctioning for my children. What am I doing? I was so afraid of causing the same issues that I had, that I was going to do that to my children. So I read all these books. And one of the books told me to do the cry it out method. I don't know if you know that method, but I'm going to tell you that I tried it because I was like, oh yeah, this book must know all the answers. And I didn't have enough trust within myself because I had trust issues. So I didn't trust myself to follow my intuition. That's not a really good plan, right? But I was like, all right, so we're going to do it. So I did it. The cry it out method is where you put the child in the crib when it's night time. You don't console them. You just basically put them in the crib and shut the door. And they're supposed to learn how to self-soothe. And I can tell you that I sat on the couch when my baby cried, and I cried and I cried and I cried with her. And I was like, oh my gosh, this doesn't feel right. There's no way I can just let her cry like that. She's crying for me. I need to go soothe her. I need to console her. I can't do this, right? So the cry it out method is a horrible method. I did it probably 3 times. I could not do it. It was just so difficult that my second son, or my second child, because I slept with my babies, I co-slept with my babies. I mean, I just felt like I needed to be with my babies all the time. And I was just there for them. And because of my issue of trust, I was like, I'm going to build trust within my children and me. I want them to know that they can trust me. But I mean, I wore my babies all the time, and so it's very crazy. But so basically, in the cry it out method, the child's cries go unanswered, and then the baby's attempts to reach out completely cease. And this was a method that was used a lot in the 80s. So your parent may have done this, I'm pretty sure that mine did. And what happens is, in this case, if the child's attempts to reach out do not get answered, then they can have a failure to properly attach to their caregivers. Children may not learn to engage in healthy relationships. This results in the fear of closeness, lack of impulse control, low frustration tolerance, which means they get frustrated really easy. Frustration was one of my big things, and lack of respect of authority. So these things that you see teachers in your classrooms may be just a result of their issue of trust, not trusting the classroom, not trusting the space. It's very interesting. Okay, so because the physical and emotional needs were not met as a child, they cannot trust others to value or meet their needs in the future. So how do you know if you play out the issue of trust? This is very interesting because a lot of people kind of want to know, like, is this one of my issues? Is this what I do? I don't know. Let's check it out. People who play out the issues of trust. So basically, when your physical and emotional needs were not met as a child, then when in your adult life, you would see symptoms of where you cannot trust others to value or meet those needs. So you keep everyone at a distance and you do everything for yourself, not trusting or depending on others at all. This was me, and probably why I got so many awards, because I had such a distrust of the world around me. So, for instance, when I was a manager of clinics, I was 21 years old. I was in the military as a manager of like 9 clinics, in like pediatrics and what was it? Immunizations, pediatrics, family practice, internal medicine. I was manager of all these clinics of people, and I would just do everything myself. It was a part of over-functioning that I just was like, well, I'll do it. No, I'll get that done. Don't worry about it. I'll do that. And that was it was because I just distrusted, were these people going to be able to fulfill what I needed? And so I was like, you know what? Forget it. I don't even want to know. I don't even want to find out. I'm just going to do it myself. And there's a lot of you running around who do that. A lot of managers, a lot of people who are really high places, a lot of people who are afraid to depend on other people because of the trust issue that lives inside of you. A person who lives with a trust issue, they don't trust that they're worthy of love, because in past relationships, they didn't receive the type of love that they needed. So they feel that in all relationships, it's their fault if they do not receive love because they didn't deserve love to begin with. So it's not really the person's fault that didn't give them love. It's actually my fault because I'm cursed and I'm not worthy of love because I was taught that as a child. It's basically what happens. Okay, so a person who has a trust issue, they do not trust love. They deny themselves the opportunity to receive it. Their experiences with love in the past has been disappointing and full of pain, so they don't trust that others can fulfill their needs. They just don't think it's possible. So they don't want to get disappointed. So they're just like, it's not going to work anyway, so I'm just not going to be disappointed. If you're a person who lives with that, then you do not trust people and their actions because in your childhood, your parents were deceptive with each other. Maybe you saw them lying to each other a lot. Maybe you saw your mother hiding things from your father or something like that, not telling the truth, and you saw it as a child and you're like, I thought you told me to tell the truth all the time, but why are you lying? You know what I mean? But anyway, what that does is that forms your beliefs that others cannot be trusted to be truthful, that people are all going to lie, because I saw my parents lying to each other all the time and they lied to me. I wasn't allowed to lie to them, so I don't lie to people, but I expect that the whole world is going to lie, so I just expect it. Someone with a trust issue is very selective in their circle of friends. As anyone who's in their circle has to earn their trust first. Honesty, and that's not a bad thing. Honesty is a major attribute to your friends with little or no tolerance for deception. If you have an issue of trust, you do not trust yourself to make decisions. You judge yourself and others for failed you judge yourself and others for failed relationships, decisions that you made in the past, and you're very guarded in allowing yourself to form future relationships. This also, you'll see it, like I was talking about in groups when we were talking about judgment. And I said in college, I would get in groups and I just wouldn't say anything. And I would just let everybody make the decisions. And that's because I didn't trust that I was going to make the right decision. So I was like, you're probably going to make better decisions than me, so do your thing. You want to get an A, you probably don't want to do it for me because I probably don't know the answer, right? So, all right. Or, on the other hand, you might trust everyone with no discernment, causing you to be continually disappointed and hurt. You just I just trust the whole world, and with this grandiose way of thinking, with no boundaries or nothing like that. So it's just you just get disappointed and hurt all the time. You just feel like you're being walked on all the time. Another thing that somebody who has a trust issue does is they make excuses for people when they're dishonest with them. So allowing them to continue to treat them in the same way. For instance, you might say something like, well, I don't blame them for that. It's totally okay that they're acting that way. No, it is not okay. It is a betrayal. It's a violation of who you are. Stop making excuses and letting them continue to treat you the same way that they want to treat you. If you don't believe that that's good for you, don't do it. Just stop it. Now, why do you want to heal the trust issue? This is why. Because in the eyes of a young child, if they can't trust their own parents to love and protect them, then they feel like they can trust no one. They decide at this very young age that they can only depend on themselves. So they become very independent individuals. Or they fear failure, so they don't do things at all for themselves. It's very interesting. Because of the fear of trusting others, we create an energetic shield of protection around ourselves, not allowing anyone to get close to us. Childhood experiences form patterns that can occur repeatedly in adult life. And so you just see the same patterns over and over and over with different people, different faces, but it's the same crap. The shield that you created is present in all your relationships. Hiding behind the shield makes you feel safe, but it's very difficult for anyone to connect with you. Instead, you repeatedly gravitate towards people who violate your trust, and you encounter deception after deception and betrayal and abandonment. It's just a constant thing that's happening in your life. You walk around thinking that all people are like this. And then you sabotage your relationships by not allowing people to love you. You end up abandoning your partner, either physically or emotionally or both, to prevent from what you see as the inevitable hurt and disappointment. Like, they're going to hurt me anyway, so I might as well just keep them at a distance, not get too close, not build that relationship. And in return, you're denying yourself the love because there's no connection. You can't have love without connection. They go together. Okay? When we unconsciously attract people with very similar issues to ours, as everyone has their baggage, right, and insecurity. So neither party will even know how to give or receive trustful love at that point. And a lot of times you'll find this in codependency situations. You'll find this when people are born into families where they're taught not to have boundaries and stuff like that. They will attract those same people, and then they will actually play those issues out. You'll find that people who have this issue have attracted someone else with the same issue, and they play out those issues together. It's like it never ends. It's like they just take what happened in their childhood and they bring it right into their adult relationships. Now, this is a blessing, because if people awaken to the fact that they have this issue, then they have the perfect opportunities to heal the issues. It's when they don't know that they have these issues and they have no idea that they're playing this game with each other over and over and over again. They're just playing out the relationships that they have with their mother or their father or whatever it was, that they picked someone exactly like that, to play it out. And it's funny because you may find someone and think, oh my gosh, they're totally not like my dad or my mom or whatever. And so, yeah, I could totally be in that relationship. You get into the relationship and you realize they're exactly like them. It's wild, really wild stuff. Anyway, these trust issues are often attached to many other issues such as abandonment and betrayal and abuse. We had talked about how abandonment is so close to this one, but this topic has so much in it that there's no way I could have done two topics together. So they are very closely related though. So these relationships are very painful, and they are very valuable opportunities though to gain a greater understanding of your trust issue. So I had said that before. If you end up in a relationship that has codependency or something of that sort, where one person is over-functioning and the other person is a fear of failure, then it's a very good indication that you may be in one of these relationships, and it's a blessing in disguise, because if you can both see it, then you both can work on it and you can both heal each other at the same time. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. It's very exciting to know that we have the ability to create the future experiences in our lives. We all we have to do is change the patterns that we created in our childhood that live deep inside of us unconsciously. That's all we have to do. And that's really exciting, because that means that you have control in order to have the life that you want. You do not have the destiny that your parents put into you or whatever your environment was. You don't have, that's not your destiny. You can create your own destiny, but you have to heal first in order to be able to do that. Oftentimes people complain of having big holes in their heart that are filled with sadness and darkness. The sadness is because you do not allow yourself to receive emotional love because you believe that you are not worthy of it. The darkness is the experiences that we hold on to. And I want to reiterate that those are just lessons to provide a greater understanding of love. And do not define who you are to be. That is your choice, who you are to be. Many times we blame others for not giving us love that we need, when we are in fact the ones pushing them away. We train them how to treat us. We are the ones energetically and telepathically teaching them that we are not worthy of love, so don't even try. So I'll give you an example. When I first met my husband, I was like, hey, you know what? When it's my birthday, don't worry about giving me presents. You know what I mean? And I was like, hey, when it's Christmas, and I had no idea that I was training him not to give me presents. Why would I do that? Because it's a subconscious thing in me. And then I get really sad because I'll be like, I didn't get any presents. Well, he's like, well, you told me not to get you any presents. And I'm like, yeah, but I kind of wanted a present. It's really weird, right? But it's because I had these issues inside of me, and I was training him on what to do. I'm like, no, don't even worry about it. It's okay. I don't need them. You know what I mean? And then I'd get it's my birthday. I don't have any presents. And he's like, well, you told me not to get any presents. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I did. I did tell you that. So very interesting how we do stuff like that. Why we would even do that is really crazy. I don't know. It's crazy talk. Okay, so let's talk about how to heal. I know this is a super long video. Thank you for staying with me if you're with me. Say hi, because I'm getting long-winded and I'm getting kind of tired, but I know it's really important. The trust issue is not like the issue of judgment, where you could just say, I'm not going to do that anymore. And I know there's a part of judgment that is subconscious, but the judgment actually comes out of your mouth in your words. And so you can see it more easily. You can see the complaining, you can see the condemning, and those sort of things. Because with judgment, you can just stop talking. It's a little bit different when it comes to trust, because there is no talking about it. The issue with this is that some of these trust issues stem far before you were even conscious about it. A lot of times it's going to be between birth and the age of 6, where you don't remember any of that. And a lot of abuse happens. We'll talk about abuse, but a lot of abuse happens before the age of 6. And the reason why is because the abuser, it's about control. We'll talk about that when we talk about abuse. But the abuser knows that you're not going to remember. So they stop the abuse when they start to see that you're kind of becoming conscious of the world and more aware. So a lot of times the physical abuse will stop around 6 years old, but the mental abuse will continue. So just kind of be aware of that some of these trust issues may stem from violations that happened before you were 6 years old. So you have no idea that it's even part of yourself. You have no idea it's in your subconscious. You have no idea why you do things the way you do things. It doesn't make sense sometimes, and I get that. And that's because it's so deep. And the adult, like I said before, may have healed some of these issues, but there's a child that subconsciously inside never really healed. So we have to work with that. Anyway, so it has to start with awareness. You have to become aware that it's even an issue. And that's what I'm doing. I'm bringing awareness to your life, awareness to your situation, so that if you do have these issues and you can see them playing out in your life, that you can do something about it. You don't have to live in the pain anymore. You don't have to live like that anymore. So once you see how you deny yourself love because of your trust issues, then you can start working with the child within yourself to find out how to build trust. The child within does not trust adults. Adults have hurt this child. If you have a trust issue, there were adults that you depended on that hurt you. And so if you think that your adult self is just going to be like, hey, I'm an adult now, I'm taking care of my inner child, it's kind of like the child's like, I don't trust you. You are an old person, right? You're older and you are cunning and you know how to hurt little kids is what they're probably thinking, right? So you have to build trust within yourself because they have learned that adults cannot be trusted. They are sneaky bastards is what your little child learned, right? So you have to build a relationship within yourself. And very interestingly enough, when I was a teacher, I would hear my teacher friends all the time say that they have better relationships with their students than they do with adults. And that's something I want you to consider to look at. Why do you feel you're more comfortable with children than you do with adults? Some of it could be judgment. Some of it could be trust issues. And so that's something that I would like for you to look at. If you're a teacher and you have a better relationship with children than you do with adults. It's a clue. There are so many clues in life. Put the pieces of the puzzle together and start to see what is really happening, who you really are. It's very important. All right. The biggest and best way to heal yourself from a trust issue is learning to trust yourself. Learning to trust God again. I can't tell you how many people I find that have been violated and betrayed, that they don't trust God. They don't trust that God is even really there. Understanding that people are people, they have free will, and that free will does not have to infringe on your life. Remind yourself daily that you have choices. No one can trap you but yourself. There's a really good book by a Holocaust survivor. I can't remember what it's called, but he talks about how even though he was in a prison, his mind was not, and that is how he survived. He said that people who succumbed, that's the word, I couldn't think of it. I have it written, but I'm like not reading it right. He said that people who succumbed to the fact that they were in prison and they attached to the idea that they were being imprisoned, they died. Right? And he said the ones who did not stay in the reality, they looked to the future, the ones who could see it in a different way, they lived. And there are a lot of us who are out here in this free world, but our minds are in an emotional prison. If you cannot trust yourself, you cannot trust others. So a lot of what I do is helping people with my intuition. If I didn't work on myself and I didn't learn how to trust myself, I would be a grave disservice to the people who come to me for help. And a lot of people are like, well, how do I hear the things that you hear? How do I get the wisdom that you have? And how do I do those things? And I'm telling them the biggest thing is you have to learn how to trust yourself, because the answers are within inside of you. All of the infinite wisdom of the world is inside of you. But if you don't trust that you have the answers, then you won't have them. You'll look to other people all the time and think that other people are more powerful and better than you are. And that's not the truth. And sometimes I have people who come to me and they're like, oh my gosh, you're so good at what you do. Like, how do you, and I'm like, you could be too. And I try to teach people, what does it feel like inside? And we talk a lot about like, what does that feel like? And I try to help them trust themselves more. Yes, they'll ask me a question and I'll say, I know what I feel and think, but what do you feel and think? And they're like, oh, they get kind of like flabbergasted. Well, I don't know. I want you to tell me what you feel and think first before you ask me, and I will be able to validate. A lot of times I go to people with really strong intuition to validate myself, to make sure that I am trusting myself, to make sure that I'm hearing the things that I need to hear. So I wouldn't be able to change my own life and to be a blessing of other people's lives if I didn't trust myself. Okay? You just hold yourself back when you're not trusting yourself. So I believe that learning to trust your own intuition is by far the most important thing you can do in life. Stop thinking that everyone else knows more than you do. You have all the answers in your heart. God speaks to you through your heart. You will know the communication from God when it is really quick and really precise, and it's loving. If it is negative, it is not your truth. It is not from God. It is not to be trusted. If it feels very loving and it feels right, it feels like, yes, that's it, then that is your truth, and that you can trust that. You can trust that God speaking through you in that way. And not only that, but the more you raise your vibration, the more you give love, the more you receive love, the more you feel love, the more you raise your vibrations. I do it through oils. I do it through dancing. I do it through music. I do it through running. I do it any way I can raise my vibration. And then I know that I'm going to get positive, loving response in my heart from God. And I know that that is the right thing. That's my truth. That's where I go. Okay, because the lower your vibration is, you are attracting the negativity within inside of you. And so, yeah, I can see why you would distrust that. You should distrust that. If it's lower vibration, and you know lower vibration because you've met high vibration people and you've met low vibration people, you know what that feels like when you walk in a room. You can tell if that's going to be a good day or not, if it's going to be a good day at work or not. You sense the room to see what's going on, right? And so it's the same type of thing. And start trusting that intuition. Start by something really small. Put it this way, like if you hear God, say if you're driving in your car and for some reason, even though the map says to go this way, but man, you feel it in your heart, you need to go the other way. That's your intuition. That's what you need to be trusting. And a lot of people will go, oh, no, the map says to go this way, so I should go that way. And then they go that way, and guess what happens? There's an accident or something crazy's happening over there. I'm like, oh, I should have listened to my intuition. I should have gone the other way. Because then they find out that other people went the other way and they got there faster and they didn't have to deal with all the hardship and all the craziness. And that's what you do, right? If you hear God say, turn around, go in this different direction, then do that. I follow my intuition to the T these days. I used to be more like plan my life out and had everything to the T. And if it didn't work out, I was frustrated, distrustful, just in a negative space. But now what I do is I go, if something comes to me and it feels like I don't know what to do with it, I go within and I ask God, what do I do? And then I feel, what do I feel? What I need to do? I wait, and then God tells me, and I go, okay, I'm going to do that. And sometimes it's stuff that I would be like, oh gosh, I don't know if I could do that. Like jumping on live to talk about trust. But God's been speaking on my heart and saying, get on there and talk to people about trust because you know a lot about it. And you could open the doorway to people who need it. Open the doorway to people for awareness. Help awaken people to that they have the power in their own lives. So start listening to yourself. That's the biggest thing. Start listening to yourself and following what your heart says. If it feels good inside, if it feels loving, it's the right thing for you. If it doesn't, if it feels very negative and feels like it's closing you off, it is not your truth. So don't do that. Okay? That's what I would do. Also, start to learn how to build trust in your relationships. I'm going to teach you how to do that right now. So Brene Brown, she is amazing. If you haven't seen her Netflix special, you should totally see it. She's amazing. I love her. But Brene Brown has the 7 elements of trust where she explains to you, first she explains that trust is very, very valuable and it's not to be given just to anyone. And she gives you 7 ways to discern who is worthy of your trust. So for those people who don't give out their trust to anyone, this is a really great place for you to start opening up and trying to try something new, okay? And for people who do give their trust out to everyone, then this will set parameters for you so that you can learn, you can just have like a smaller ring of people that you actually trust, and it's going to bring you better experiences. Let's put it that way. Okay. Ugh, I feel like my hair is getting stuck to my face. Okay. So the 7 elements of trust, let's go over that right now because this is really important. The first element of trust is boundaries. And so you'll find when you start setting boundaries that there are people who do not know what boundaries are, they don't care, and they don't respect the concept. These are red flags because that means that these people have been disrespecting your boundaries all along. They're probably not respectful of anyone's boundaries, not just yours. And more than likely, these are going to be the people pretty close to you. Generally, these are the people who are in your circle, and you'll find out as soon as you go to set a boundary, you're going to find out who these people are. It's very interesting, right? Now, you can ignore these red flags if you want to. However, trust cannot exist without boundaries. Trust and relationship cannot exist without boundaries. So ask yourself these questions. 1, can I say no to this person if I need to? Will they accept my no? Am I willing to respect and accept their no? Do we both have the courage to say no to each other? If I set a boundary, will they honor it? Will they ignore it? And will they try to talk me out of it? Here's a big red flag. Do they get offended if I even suggest that there would be a boundary? Right? So that boundary, that is a very interesting, there's a book called Boundaries. If you have a problem with boundaries, you need to read that book. I can't remember who wrote it, but it's got red on the cover. And I think it's got a pencil or something and it says Boundaries. Whew, wonderful book. You need to read it. That will help you so much when you start to create boundaries. It will help you with the words to the conversation with some of these people that you have allowed to walk over your boundaries for years and years and years. Because when you go to set a boundary with someone who's used to walking over your boundaries, it's not going to be pretty. So get ready. Get ready to build your backbone because that's what's going to happen. Okay. Next, reliability. Do they do what they say they're going to do? This is a big one. When I was a child, I remember I was to be picked up by a certain time after school, after my theater practices. And I would watch everybody else get picked up. And I waited, and I waited, and I waited. And it would be like 9 o'clock at night. And finally, I would get picked up. And I was like, I'd done all my homework in the dark. You know, is that a reliable person? No. If somebody says they're going to be there at a certain time, they need to be there at that time. Or that's just not a reliable person, right? Are you willing to take small steps? Do they expect too much too soon? Many times that's a red flag for a codependent relationship. You're welcome to do it. Just understand that a person that wants to rush into things and wants you to hurry up and do things and that's a boundary issue as well, right? But just remember, if you do get in a relationship like that you're going to be triggering a lot of other issues, not just trust, and because it's going to create a pattern of codependency inside of your relationship. So another thing about reliability is, are they consistent in their words and actions? Is their kindness authentic? Are they authentic? That is really important because authenticity and accountability are keys to reliability. So if they cannot be either one of those, then they probably are not reliable either. All right, number 3. Number 3 is accountability. Do they own their own mistakes? Do they apologize? Do they make amends? Or do they blame others, play the victim? Does this person contemplate their actions? Meaning, do they think before they speak? Do they think before they come to you, or are they reactive? Are they open to their own emotions? Do they show authenticity? Do they show authentic vulnerability? Like, people can pretend vulnerability, but is it authentic? Does it feel real? Does it feel authentic? Right? If someone cannot own up to their own mistakes and they blame others for things in their lives, then they are not trustworthy people. It means that they will blame you for everything, and when push comes to shove, they will shove you to shield themselves from their own pain. They will emotionally vomit all over you and project their pain onto you. And a person who behaves in this way is not a person to give your trust to. If you do, then you will more than likely end up accepting the blame that they give you, and it will trigger your issues of trusting yourself because someone is telling you something that you don't really truly agree with, but yet you are giving them the power by accepting it. And now what you're doing is you're giving up your trust of yourself instead of standing up for who you are and standing up for yourself. That's what you need to be doing. Stand up for yourself. No, I don't agree with that. Right? So if they are somebody who does that, then they are not trustworthy people. You do not have to give your trust to them. You will end up giving them more power than they deserve. All right, number 4, vault. Vault is interesting because I didn't know what this meant at first. It took me a while to figure out what vault was, and now I got it. Okay, so vault. Do they share information or experiences that are not theirs to share? You need to know that your words are kept in confidence and that they are not sharing, and that they're not sharing information about you or other people that should be kept confidential. That's vault. In order to open up with someone, you need to know that that person will hold your information with the highest regard. Does this person gossip about other people? That's a clue. That's a red flag. Does this person dig up drama? I want you to think of vault like this, like a bank vault. If you were to open up your bank vault, would you just throw your money all over the street? Right? Because that's what you're doing when someone is not trustworthy. You just throw your money all over the street, right? Or would you like to know that your information, your money is going to a secure place? Will it grow exponentially, right? What are you looking for? So people who gossip will gossip about you. Don't ever think that you are an exception. People who gossip hang out with other people who gossip, and you will be gossiped about. That is a red flag. It's a no-no for me. If you gossip, you're out of my circle. Just the way that it works. I don't do it. All right, number 5, integrity. Do they choose courage over comfort? Do they choose what is right over what is fun, fast, and easy? Do they practice being honest and show consistent, uncompromising adherence to strong moral and ethical principles and values? Are they true to their word, or do they just give lip service? Do they honor their commitments? Do they call when they say they will? That goes with reliability, right? Are they available to have a relationship? A lot of times people aren't even available in their lives to have a relationship. Lots of times the friends that I have are because they give me their time. So we have a good friendship. It takes time to build a friendship. It takes time to build a relationship. It's nothing that happens like that quick. So a lot of times, like, I want to have a relationship with someone and a friendship with someone, but they're just too busy for me, right? Sometimes I'm too busy for people. So, that is right. Integrity also has to go with, are they honest? Do they value other people? Do they value you? That is all in the category of integrity, in my opinion. All right, number 6, non-judgment. Can we talk about how we feel without judgment? Do they have the willingness to remain objective in an adverse situation, or when negative emotions arise, can they take themselves out of their emotion and because what happens is generally in negative emotions, people become judgmental pretty quickly. So I'm looking to see, can someone be mature in their own feelings and take their emotions out of something? Like, are they self-aware? Can they observe their own thoughts and distance themselves from being reactive? Do they make you feel comfortable? Do they make you feel like you can confide in them? Or do they make you feel like they'll hold things over your head? Right? Have they held things over your head before in the past? Do you feel like they're making a checklist when they talk to you? Right? A checklist as, I'm going to remember that. And when you cross me, I'm going to bring that up. Right? That's not a trustworthy person. that you tell them something and they're like logging it in their head so that they can bring it back at you when the time is right. Like when we fight, I'm ready to throw you under the bus. Like, oh, whoa. Or when you don't do what I want you to do, when our love is conditional, then I'm going to throw you under the bus. And this is all the stuff I have logged down about you. So don't cross me. No, that is not a trustworthy person. Mainly, if you're looking at non-judgment as being a characteristic of someone that you can build trust with, the main thing is do you feel safe in the relationship? If you don't feel safe, if it makes you feel weird inside, that is not your person. If you feel good inside when you're talking to somebody and you feel like open, you feel like, oh man, yeah, that is probably a trustworthy person. Your inner guides, God is telling you that is an okay person. But if you feel like, ooh, I kind of feel sick to my stomach and I don't know how I feel about this person, yeah, it's probably a red flag. And it's probably, if you question it, it's probably not for you. Next, number 7, generosity. This is a very interesting one because it's not talked about a lot, but can they assume the most generous thing about your words, actions, intentions, and behaviors? Meaning, do they give you the benefit of the doubt? Do they give other people the benefit of the doubt? Are they willing to see other people's perspectives, or do they just have their own? This is a very interesting one. Generosity is forgiveness. Can they forgive? If you make a mistake, can they forgive you? Or do they hold grudges? And are they stubborn? Right? Are they just going to hold it against you forever? We are the worst, beings on the planet because we hold crap against each other till the end of time. You cannot make a mistake, I swear, with people sometimes. It's like you make a mistake and they're like, oh, I mean, we're human. That's the crazy thing. Humans make mistakes, but yet we hold each other so accountable. Like, oh, you did this to me and you suck for the rest of your life. Like, what? You know what I mean? Or like when we fight, we bring it up. When we fight, we're like, remember this? Oh, that was like 50 years ago, dude. Why are you bringing that up? Like sometimes my mom would bring stuff up when I was a child. Like I was like 6 or 7. Like how can you bring that up to me when I'm in my 40s? You know what I mean? Like I don't understand that. And we do that. Like I did it in my relationship. I'm not being better than anyone else. I did that. I kept tabs on my husband and we'd fight. I'd throw that out at him. I'm like, I was a good fighter. But it's horrible, dude. I don't do that anymore. And if we do, he'll catch me on it. I'm like, all right, you win. Fair enough. You got me. That one I will take back. Right? It's kind of silly. All right. So generosity is also, are they grateful? Because a grateful heart brings more generosity, brings more things to you. So, and the interesting thing is if you ask the question, can they forgive? And you need to ask yourself the same thing. Can I do the same for them? Right? If I can't forgive them, then maybe they're not a trustworthy person. Maybe there is something inside of me saying that we shouldn't have that relationship, right? Okay. So, and then do they give respectful feedback to you? Or is it criticism? Are they generous in their feedback? Are they generous with their love? Right? Because if you're going to get into a trustful relationship, you need to have someone who knows how to give love and give love freely, not hold on to their love with conditions attached to it. Unconditional love means that there is love without conditions. Conditional love is what we have lived with so many years. If you don't do this for me, I can't love you. I will not give you love. I will withhold my love if you don't do what I ask you to do. That's conditional love. Can they love you unconditionally? That is generosity. All right. With all that being said, and I'm almost done, so thank you so much for sticking with me all this time. I know it's been a while. With all that being said, and lots to think about, I want to wrap up with the biggest advice that I have in building trust with someone is communication and connection are the keys. It takes time to build trust, to make good decisions, to value each other and the relationship, and to gain the skills needed to be a team. Because your partner, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your soulmate, your twin flame. I'm just kidding. No, but you're the person that you're in a relationship, your friends, your coworkers, they're your teammates. And you're on the same page, especially in a marriage. If you marry someone, you are committed to that person. It means that you're a teammate to that person, that you're on the same page. And there are times that you're going to need to remind each other that you're on the same team. I'm on the same team. We're not scrimmaging. We're on the same team. And you don't need to be in defensive mode. We don't have to do that. If you're on the same team, there's no defense. Like, there's no defense. We're defensing other people, not each other. Like, we're on the same team, right? This type of vulnerability will change your life forever. It is exciting. It is miraculous. It is love. It is awesome. And you should totally go for it. That is all that I have for tonight. Hopefully you made a comment or did a like or something so that I could raffle this off. And if not, then I'm going to keep it because I can always use forgive oil. Just kidding. I can always forgive myself and everything, the universe and other people. So there's always a reason for it in my life. I hope that you guys learned something. I hope that you enjoyed your time with me because I'm completely done.